Day 5 of the April 2000 7-day retreat in Springwater. Beautiful sunny morning, so unexpected. After all the rain and clouds and snow. One just wants to take it all in and breathe it in, walk in it. The marvel of it all. Sun shining. Lighting up everything. Even the shade gets lighter when the sun is out. Particularly before all the leaves are there are all these little islands of light in the woods. What to talk about this morning? I used to think years ago that I had to have some kind of a topic for a talk and try to have one ready as this time approached the sitting before the talk. More recently, it works better to sort of just listen inwardly, sounding out. What is the concern, the greatest concern of most of the people who talk about it in meetings? And this is how it seems to work. Meetings bring out our concerns, our confusions, unclarities, and one sort of takes that upon oneself for a while and allows this body-mind and the awareness that lights it up to clarify it, to sort it all out. It's a marvelous process. Which isn't the way I thought it was, that I had to choose a topic. And that's what we're going to talk about. Choice, choosing, the chooser, making decisions. Because it is so incredibly deeply rooted in us that somehow or other I am making choices. I can make a choice, maybe not always, but there is some place where I can make a choice, make a decision, have made decisions in retrospect. And the difficulty of even questioning it, or let alone letting go of this conviction, making room for the possibility that it is not so. That's actually one thing we learn and have been learning in sitting, meditation, retreats. That things are not the way they appear to be. No matter how much they appear to be a certain way, it may turn out not to be that way at all when the thinking mind abates, loses its domination over our perceptions, allowing a freer, opener attending and revealing. One could approach this from so many sides, this question of making a choice. One could ask right off the bat, or bit. What's the word, bat or bit? I don't know. Right off the what? Why is something here clinging to the idea that I am deciding things? And the answer could easily be, well, because this is how it is, I can tell. I decide right now, and this example has been used over the years, maybe over the decades and centuries and millennia. If I raise my hand, if I decide to raise my hand, your hand isn't being raised, it's this hand that raises. But are we willing, do we have the time and energy and interest to put an enormous magnifying glass on this thing of intending to lift the hand and lifting the hand? Maybe, maybe not. And what is that huge magnifying glass through which looking can take place? Pardon the words, they're dualistic, they're just temporary. We'll maybe eventually be able to discard them. What is this magnifying glass of looking at what seems to be my intention to raise my arm, which is personal, it's my intention, my arm, my choice to raise it or not. And the magnifying glass is an enormous stillness, quietness, an abating of the me agendas, a quieting of the thinking mind, and with that, this magnifying glass, if we will temporarily call it this way, appears to look, to show what is really happening. Not what I want to happen, or what I'm afraid won't happen. These things can temporarily be in abeyance. So I want to raise my arm. Or do I? Do I want to raise my arm? Right now I don't. There's no such need or desire. I'm not trying to make a point. Or am I trying to make a point? I want to make a point that when I raise this arm, it's raising here. So there is the desire to make a point. Not to belittle that or take it out of consideration. And what is this desire to make a point? We always have to get off of the habitual expressions, not just get locked into them, which is easy enough. This is how we talk to each other all the time. Not to get locked into habitual expressions, but what is really going on? There's a fleeting thought or a not so fleeting thought. I got to prove something, I got to make a point. And that thought carries energy. When this can reveal itself in this magnifying glass of attention. The way it is put is not usually questioned. There is already the assumption that I want to make a point, that there is an I that has the ability, the desire to make a point. What is this I? As one looks and watches, it can This I-ness, this meanness, can only reveal itself through the thoughts that become visible. I want this, I don't want that. I know I'm right. I'm afraid I'm wrong, but I don't want to find out. I'm just sort of inventing, extemporizing. Everybody can fill in the details if we're looking. Why I want to make a point is a universe of its own, of background. It takes in all of my upbringing, my past experiences, my feeling of self, inferior or superior, or a mixture of all of that. How it was in my family. I was just with my sister for 3 weeks. Point making is a big business there. Enormous. At times overwhelming. So one picks it up. We've learned by observation and science is trying to observe as neutrally as possible what goes on in human beings, which is not easy for human beings who have agendas and want to also publish papers, become important and all of that. But that there is a tremendous capacity in the youngest of age to imitate, to absorb. Well, doesn't have to be a scientist to observe this in children. How they imitate the language, the inflections, the expressions, the body language of the people around them. Maybe at first without understanding much meaning, just going through the motions. A vivid memory of our granddaughter who was 2 years old, sitting in the living room. We were still at the dining room table, talking about things with some intensity, and she was babbling and repeating it all while she was trying to put her pantyhose on. Just picking it up, repeating it like fun. Just as trying to get that pantyhose on also was fun. She did it over and over. But the amazing thing of repeating words that she couldn't possibly understand and yet getting the right expression, the right pronunciation. So, I want to make the point, due to a million past influences, and I'm saying I want to make it, a thought arises to make this point, to show something, to give an example, or to examine something. See how all of our inclinations, how they're branching out into everything that we've ever been in contact with. And everything we've ever been in contact with has also been in contact with everything. This is the nature of our life, which is not separate, walled-off bits of people or things. An amazing internetwork of desires, of expressions, of words, of reactions, fears, desires. So the thought arises here, for whatever reason, we'll not go into this right now, we have touched upon it, to raise the arm. And with that thought, the arm raises, if one wants to make that point. In watching right now, if there's really watching, so that things become so transparently clear, why would the arm raise? There's no desire to prove something or show something. If it raises, why does it raise? There are probably trillions and billions of reasons why this arm can raise when the thought arises, raise it, to make a point. Most of what goes on in this human body-mind is not known to us. We're not conscious of it. I sometimes hear mind-boggling astronomical figures, how large the amount of things is that we don't know about this body, which we say is mine and which we almost think we are in control of. Okay, the thought occurs here, raise the arm, and up it goes. For how it does, I will not attempt to find out because I'm incapable of apprehending all the lots of movements down to the cells. Then the argument goes, this arm goes up, your arm doesn't go up. So, is it a fact that there are all kinds of different human beings, very much alike, very much connected, and yet different? We're told there are no two human beings that are completely alike in genetic makeup, experiences, history. It's a fact. It's a fact that need not be connected up causally with I-ness, me-ness, you-ness. It's a fact there are different human beings here in this hall. Different and yet very similar. And yet very different. Again, thinking back of being with my sister, amazing what similarities we have. We both love to keep order, tidy, and have an idea how it should be kept. And if somebody doesn't keep it like that, whoa. We look alike. I was she's sick. She can't go out very much, and I was going places, taking walks with Peter, my brother-in-law, and many times in a store, or we went to this Mardi Gras, somebody who knew Peter would say, "Oh, hello, Mrs. Liza." His name is Liza, and I was Mrs. Liza. I looked alike enough. Yet we're very dissimilar too. So, why can't this fact exist as it does without saying, because there are different human beings, they are all different I's or me's? We think that way, and we think I and me, but just because we think this way and talk this way many times a day, many times an hour, does not prove anything. That there is an entity, me, that directs things and controls things and makes choices. If we want to find out about it, we have to watch it. How thoughts arise and have a tremendous power to influence action. Here or there, for all human beings. So, how did I make a choice to buy this red blouse? If I start from that thing, that I made the choice to buy this. Oh, again, it's an infinite history. Growing up, you couldn't wear red in Germany at my age. At my time, I was out. First time I went back to Europe after having been here for 4 years, I had sort of a reddish kind of suit on. And several people told me, one can see that you've been in America for a while. But to pick that first red thing to put on it took a lot of thinking and evaluating and judging and putting oneself into the minds of others. How will they see me? And yet, the desire, I saw so many red-dressed people here in this country. They couldn't all be bad. And it looked nice, so I tried it, and I felt good in it. It felt good to wear red. It was a surprise. So I've bought more red things since, because it feels good. Other colors don't feel good. I bought something orange once around Halloween, and it was terrible to wear. I had hardly bought it, and it landed at the Goodwill. So why do we feel good in something red and not good in something orange? If you want to explore it, I don't know what will come up. But the point I'm trying to make is there wasn't a free choice to pick red, but it had a history, a long trailing history to it. And to re-buy red had to do with feeling okay in it. Looking in the mirror, getting feedback, people say, oh, a nice blouse you've got on. So it becomes too flat to just say, if we're examining things, to just say, I chose that. There's much more depth to it than that sentence, that way of expressing it. People say to me, you chose, you made a decision to leave the Zen Center. That's just the last sentence to put on that long process of thinking, looking, experiencing, studying, listening to Krishnamurti, weighing, discussing it with people, with Kyle. And then finally, the trip to see Roshi and telling him at that point, even though I may have put it this way, I decided, I don't think I said that. I said, I don't feel I'm a Buddhist anymore. And I cannot continue in that tradition. It was clear. It was finished. The Zen Center was finished. He didn't think it was finished. He was very, how do you put this, a little bit patronizing. He said, we go through these stages and it may pass, or it will pass, I don't remember. So, was there somebody who chose, or was there an immense convergence of thoughts and experiences, and lookings and thinkings, weighing? All, you may say, no, you can't say it all taking place in this human being, because the group of people with whom we discussed was not just here, were all kinds of people involved in dialoguing about it, feeding back, raising questions. But just because we have been traditionally saying, I made this decision, must not confuse the mind. It does, but it need not. If there is this wondering about what really happens. And you could say, well, at the time I'm sitting and nothing comes up, I have no choice. Well, may or may not. But you watch as you go, not just in retreat, but in your daily life. And you notice how many times you haven't watched. You have just thought you decided this or that, and the opportunity to watch in slow motion what really happens passed by. It was fast motion by thinking, I got to decide this and I decided that, and telling other people. So, can we use our time together if we have, and if we're so inclined and interested, to bring about this slow motion, bring about this communal magnifying glass through which to look at what happens beyond the way we express it in words. I'm always happy to do this. And there need to be no feeling, well, we've done this often enough, we've done it so many times, I don't want to bother you, or it's always the same stuff. No, when you're here, it's always new. It's not the same. The looking is always fresh like this incredible morning. Who has ever seen it before? Smelled it, tasted it, touched it. So, maybe start with wondering, what is this I? And get off of the word and watch what all goes on when you say I. I want, I hate, I don't want, I'm afraid. It's already an abstraction from thoughts and feelings and emotions moving about in this body-mind, which are perceivable, or the way we've more recently put it, they can become amazingly transparent. Somebody once said, who can see all the motives, all the hidden motives we have? Well, first of all, are we interested in it, or are we afraid? But if we're really interested, there's some energy to watch. And it's amazing how very hidden motives flit by. Like sometimes on the computer it goes so fast you can hardly see it when those two little computers go down to the baseline. You've wanted to connect with the internet. But to the attentive mind that isn't filled with stuff, this little icon moving across the screen is visible. And in the same way, a motive. I want to be this way. I don't want to look that way, or you name it. It's briefly visible. Not to be judged. We're not doing this to pass judgment. That's what somebody said this morning. He said, it occurred to me that there's not just this my me. This me is all me's. It's a one whole interconnected me. And seeing that, this person said, there isn't right or wrong, good or bad. Who's there to judge? It's just what we're doing from one moment to the next due to the 10 million reasons and causes and conditions. Now, do we feel that this sounds as though we were all nothing more than robots walking around on a Star Trek? We want to be more than robots, don't we? But first we have to really be aware of the robotic nature of our reactions, programmed since time immemorial, conditioned, reflexive, according to what's life-giving and what's life-threatening, or life-sustaining, or life-pleasuring, and life-paining. These are the sort of the most fundamental, basic evaluations in quote-unquote choosing this or avoiding that. And one of our conditionings is we don't want to be robots. We want to be free agents, free-willing, not determined. It's a very powerful inner motive to be free. But it doesn't happen through thinking. We can think ourselves into a free existence, but that's still thought constructed. We're not condemning thought. There is no such thing as good or bad thought. It's just thought that is opening and helpful or factual and practical, or thought that is blocking, causing antagonism or hatred or whatever. These statements are not judgmental, they're factual. So this deep desire not just to be robotic, conditioned, reflexive, but free, I think lives in human beings. And has some driving energy, maybe. One has to watch it. It expresses itself as a yearning for clarity, for absence of confusion, for the ability to respond appropriately, accurately, not just out of self-centered, conditioned evaluations, which we're not condemning. They take place most of the time as one is watching carefully how we live. So, I don't think without this yearning, a place like this could have grown up. With open doors for people to come and share and sit together quietly, without knowing less and less. It's actually a marvelously freeing thing when the weight of knowledge lightens up in quiet sitting. Because the weight of knowledge impedes this fresh looking. It's a new mode of being, which doesn't ban knowledge. It can use it, avail itself of it, but the main mode is being here and wanting to see clearly what's actually happening. Well aware of the power of imagery, thought, remembrance. So I didn't say there is a yearning in human beings to overcome or conquer, get rid of the me. This is how it's put very often in spiritual language. I'm not saying that, because this motive is too me anchored, comes out of this whole me network. Me is not satisfied with itself, now it wants something better, something different, to be me-less. This is a me drive, a me desire. If it brings us here, so be it. But to sit with that desire all the time, to slay the me, well, one will find out what that leads to. A lot of frustration. Or deception, self-deception. But can we become aware of it? Become aware of this thing we call the me through its reactions, defensiveness, aggressiveness, anger, wanting, all of these movements of the body-mind, which we think are mine, encompass what I feel I am. Leave away the encompassing me and just watch the movements of reaction. And see whether they come from some entity or whether they're happening in time and space according to causes and conditions, past and present. So, where am I? What am I really? If not what I have believed to be. Can we start with not knowing? Not knowing means not knowing. And therefore open to touching directly. Coming in touch directly, if you wish. Not as me, but as an open space of wondering without knowing. We will end here for today.